Sometimes I like to cover topics that I'm confident 90% of the planet has never even heard of, and I know 100% of the planet does not care about. So buckle in. Buckle your seatbelt. This is going to be a bit of a wild ride for us, because I find this to be such an interesting topic. It's about a movie that was not only so catastrophic and a box office disaster, but it was so bad that a beloved director who's directed some hits like Die Hard, Predator, Hunt for Red October, Last Action Hero, and then from the deepest, stinkiest part of his bowels, he pooped out something so blasphemous and unholy that it completely ruined his career, and he has not had a movie since. Kind of. He had like one other movie after this came out, but it was already finished at the time, from what I understand. But not only was it so bad that he has basically been excommunicated from Hollywood, there was so much like espionage and conspiracy shit behind the scenes on the production of this that he also spent a whole year in jail. This is the story of Rollerball 2002. Show of hands. How many of you have heard of or, God forbid, seen Rollerball 2002? Put your hand down, I know you're lying. Don't you ever try to fib to me again. Liars go to hell. 2002 Rollerball is a film I watched growing up that I thought was just the bee's knees. I thought this shit slapped. It's the remake of a 1975 film, which is based on a book. And I thought it was amazing when I was a kid. And when I was talking about it on stream, I was shocked to learn that most people didn't share that sentiment. It has a 3% on Rotten Tomatoes, with many considering it the worst remake ever made. And for its time in the early 2000s was one of the most catastrophic flops. This was a bigger flop than My Meat Onto Your Mother's Chin. This is a film that does have a bit of a sour legacy. And last night I decided to rewatch it for the first time in 2 decades. Holy shit, this movie is incredibly bad. So before getting into how this landed the director in jail, let's go ahead and give you a review of the film. Now, what I wanted to do is like play you clips from Rollerball and talk about it and joke about it, kind of like how Danny Gonzalez does it. But the last time I tried this formula, I ended up getting a strike on my channel from the Max Steel movie. So I don't know how Danny Gonzalez gets away with it. Maybe he's made a deal with the devil. I haven't a clue, but I'm not going to risk it again. So instead, I'm just going to talk to you about Rollerball 2002. Now, first and foremost, I don't think it's a fun, bad movie. It's kind of a slog. I think the intro, like the first 20-ish minutes, is charming. Like, actually charming. Because it's this perfect encapsulation of the late 90s, early 2000s extreme era attitude. You know, fucking Stone Cold Steve Austin beating Vince McMahon in the hospital with a bedpan. You know, The Undertaker throwing Mankind McFoley off the top of Hell in a Cell. It takes that and it folds it into this universe where there's an extreme new sport called rollerball. And I promise you, rollerball is the worst sport any human being is capable of cooking up. It's like an affront to imagination entirely. It is insulting. This is a sport made by someone that has never watched a sport in their life. So, to sum it up, it's like this tiny mini golf-sized arena where you have 2 people on motorcycles, 1 for each team, and then everyone else on roller blades, and like a steel ball gets shot through, and you have to pick up the ball, and you have to do like 2 figure eights, and then you have to jump up onto the rabbit hole, they call it, which is basically just a high diving board. So you jump up onto the rabbit hole, and then you drop down, and then once you do that and complete that lap, then you are eligible to score the rollerball, which you score by taking it, and there's a giant metal saucer, like a giant metal colander, and you take it and you throw it at it. And keep in mind, the size of the arena is like the size of my room. And the extreme nature is there's motorcycles. I shit you not. That's the only thing that makes it extreme. And of course, you can like bump and hit people. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of roller derby before. It kind of borrows a lot of that DNA, but then makes it 20 times as lame. So you have these men and women on rollerblades and on these motorcycles, and the whole thing is you do this and you do that to try and prevent them from doing 2 laps and then doing this. By far, the worst part of this movie is having to watch them play that sport. It's about as extreme as me plugging my grandfather's nose when he was sleeping and then run away when he wakes up angry. It sucks, and it takes up such a large percentage of this film. It deserves the 3% for that alone. And it tries so hard to be cool and edgy, so it's got like the rock music. They have like a band on, like, built into the sport too. and they'll play like the Rob Zombie. There's a Slipknot performance in there. Pink's in here too. And it's just so lame. And they also try and just like put titties in here. So there's just scenes of boobies out, like a bunch of breasts sometimes for no reason. But they even try and get quirky with the perkies. So they'll have like these breasts in like these almost futuristic sci-fi outfits. But if it's sci-fi written by like the weirdo gooner. So like one of the scenes, all the women have like this like military uniform on, but the nipple and areolas are cut out of it. So you just see like their nipples and areolas in the uniform for some reason. It's odd. The whole movie, it really feels like it's made by the most uncool person ever trying to figure out what it means to be cool. And they just keep fishing around in the dark, not finding it. I was just surprised I didn't see more trench coats. I saw tons of sunglasses, just not nearly as many trench coats as I was expecting. But anyway, most of the film you're watching rollerball matches, which super fucking suck. You might as well just be watching like an ant farm. It's terrible. And it's filmed horribly. It's like 55 cuts just watching Jonathan Cross do this on his roller skates. It's, oh man, it is miserable. So the plot is about rollerball is the biggest sport in the world right now. It's making millions of dollars, and the whole thing is the elites of rollerball want to keep people hooked on gambling with it. That's how they're making all of their money, is through everyone gambling on rollerball. So they have to keep people's interest hooked. And the way they do that is by basically starting to purposefully rig the game to have people getting injured, to increase the stakes. Like the more blood, the better kind of thing. And Jonathan Cross and his team, they catch wind of this, and they don't like being killed. They don't like being treated like, not athletes, but instead just fodder for the ratings. Which conceptually is a decent idea, and I imagine in the book that concept is explored pretty well. It is not here at all. Also, the main bad guy looks like Nosferatu. Now, I bet you're wondering, what does this movie do when it's not just showing you rollerball matches? And the answer is nothing. So Jonathan Cross is having a fling with the motorcyclist on his team. What is her name? I think it's Black Widow. Maybe, I don't remember. But they're like in love with each other, but they're keeping it under wraps because Jonathan Cross is the face of rollerball. He is the Tom Brady of rollerball, and Nosferatu is basically rigging it so all of his team keeps getting hurt to kind of force him to be like the angriest man in the sport, so people keep getting hooked. Like the superstar, he's getting mad and now he's getting even more violent type thing. Now when they're not showing you the rollerball stuff, it's Jonathan, Black Widow, and then LL Cool J's character. They're upset about, like all of their teammates getting injured because like in one of them, the opposing team was instructed by Nosferatu and the bad guys to hit one of their teammates with the rollerball, and so they blast him in the jaw, and he's like, "Ooh!" So they blast him in the jaw, and then they start to piece it together. So then, when they're not playing rollerball, they're trying to figure out, how do we get out of this? They never figure it out. Eventually, LL Cool J and Jonathan Cross try and make it across the border. They don't make it. LL Cool J gets sniped and just dies on the spot, in probably the most anticlimactic death I have ever seen in a film. Because he was like in a lot of the scenes, because LL Cool J was a huge character here. And when he tries to make it to the border and Jonathan Cross is watching, Nosferatu just has his henchman snipe him. He just goes, all right, now shoot him. So he shoots him, he falls off the bike, and he's dead. They don't even have Jonathan Cross ever like mention him again. He is immediately forgotten entirely. There are so many scenes I would like to show you so we can laugh about it together, but like I said, I don't want to risk getting a strike for fucking Rollerball 2002. So instead, I'll just fast forward this review here because who gives a fuck? The movie ends with Jonathan in his final match where they decided Jonathan knows too much, he already tried to run, let's give him his retirement match, where they're basically just going to have the other team kill him. So they like sharpen their sticks, they have like these little scoopers, like these pooper scoopers for the ball. I think they're for the ball. They actually never utilize them except for the final scene where they have these giant fucking Q-tips that are sharp. So they start like slashing with it and Jonathan's bleeding. Jonathan starts just fighting them. The crowd's cheering, Jonathan! Jonathan! Do it! Jonathan! So he's fighting the other team. And then eventually He like overcomes the big roided out bad guy, basically this world's Bane. He beats in like this 1v1 fist fight, and then even the other team starts to rebel with Jonathan, so they all fight back against Nosferatu and the bad guys. And Jonathan grabs the rollerball and he does a flying drop kick through the glass, hitting Nosferatu, and then he throws the rollerball at one of the guys with a gun, he takes him out, and then he goes and delivers the 1-2 buckle my shoe knuckle sandwich to the other guy, taking him out. And then he goes and he kills Nosferatu. And then one of the other guys that was Nosferatu's right hand is like, when you kill a tyrant, you got to make sure to do a deal with his successor. That's me. So he pulls out his gun and Jonathan says, I've got more work to do. So then he shoots him with a shotgun, killing him. Roll credits. That's how it ends. Pretty exhilarating stuff. Now, the movie's bad. Yes. Is it a 3% bad? Yes. Did it deserve its huge flop? Yes. Now let's move on to the most interesting part about this story. How did the director, John McTiernan, land himself in jail for this? And in order to tell that story, I need to set the stage a bit, because the history of this Rollerball remake actually has a pretty tumultuous past. So initially the remake script focused on the thematic ideas of the original and fleshing them out more and going deeper on it. However, John McTiernan didn't like that idea. He had titties on the mind. He said, nope, we're throwing this out, we need more melons. So McTiernan threw out that other script, wiped his whole asshole with it, and instead opted for a script that was far more straightforward and much more about mindless action and being sexy. That was like the big thing. And when they did it for test screenings, it was not received very well. So in a panic, they recut the movie, they even redid the whole ending, and they Frankenstein together this PG-13 cut, which I'm really surprised about, because what I watched on Amazon could not have been PG-13. There were a lot of honkers out. I feel like maybe this version on Amazon is the original R-rated version, and what hit theaters was PG-13. I don't know. I haven't even bothered to look at that, because who gives a fuck? But regardless, what happened is they did redo a lot of it for a PG-13 rating. And it bombed. Everybody hated it. For obvious reasons. It's not a good movie at all. So with all of this turmoil internally, there was a big disagreement between the director, John McTiernan, and the producer, Charles Roven, about where this vision goes. And McTiernan became convinced that Roven was making an effort to sabotage his vision, so he turned to an infamous Hollywood fixer, which I guess is like, I don't know, the Pinkertons for Hollywood? I guess like a fucking assassin or something, named Anthony Pellicano, to investigate Roven, to, I guess, confirm his conspiracy that Roven was actively working against him. So Anthony Pellicano wiretapped Roven. Also, he was apparently arrested by the FBI for countless guns and explosives in his office. According to the court, McTiernan hoped he would discover dirt on Roven, especially him speaking negatively about studio execs. When Roven caught wind of the scheme and retained an attorney to investigate, McTiernan repeatedly misled or outright lied to authorities during various investigations, depositions, and hearings, and the repeated behavior shaped him into someone that the court deemed unwilling to take the matter seriously, and after multiple appeals and extensions over a period of 7 years, the director was sentenced to 1 year in federal prison. He served most of the time in the facility, but was eventually granted house arrest for the final month. And since Rollerball, he's only had one movie come out called Basic, which I believe he had already done before going to jail for the Rollerball espionage. Meanwhile, Charles Roven is wiggling his finger to the tune of an Academy Award for Best Picture for his work on Oppenheimer. Looking like Roven took home the W from this whole Rollerball 2002 debacle. However, John McTiernan did just recently, like a week or so ago, make an appearance at a film festival where they were showing Last Action Hero. And from what I've read, he has wanted to come back to directing. But no one wants to work with him after what happened with Rollerball. I couldn't believe how deep the lore on Rollerball 2002 went when I made just an offhanded comment about it on stream. I don't even remember what brought it up, but I mentioned Rollerball and how much I thought the movie was cool or something to that effect, and then it turns out it has all of this under the hood. Fucking crazy. Also, the movie does super suck, so it does deserve the 3%. Do I think it's the worst remake ever made? I don't know. There's so many bad remakes these days, it's hard to say. But it is trash, that's for sure. I don't know if we'll see John McTiernan return to directing anytime soon. It has been over 20 years now, so I think there's a good chance that, he might be suited for a comeback pretty soon. Especially with how desperate Hollywood is getting these days. I do think there is a chance we see him rise again because he does have some of the most iconic late 80s, early 90s movies under his belt. So, I guess we'll see, but anyway, I just wanted to talk about this a bit. That's it. See ya.